Hi, and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of April 27, 2020. First, let's do a quick recap of the predictions for the previous week. In terms of the market, stock market direction, I was correct for the first 3 days of the week. I thought that Monday, Tuesday would be down, and then Wednesday would be up. Thursday, I thought that the market would go down, and the results were mixed, where we had Dow Jones went up and Nasdaq went down. And then Friday, I thought that the market would go down, and that actually had a nice rally. In terms of other predictions, again, just very quickly, we have this ongoing background influence with basically Saturn conjuncting Pluto in Capricorn, which typically coincides with increased seismic activity, major earthquakes, and just kind of a geopolitical shifts and unrest, removal of leaders who were in power for a long time, reshuffling at the tops of the governments, and basically restructuring at other large corporations or again at the government level. And so I didn't really see too many news about major earthquakes, except there was one, I guess 6.3 in Papua New Guinea on Monday, and I'm recording this already on the 27th of April. I did see there was some news about a volcano at Russia's Far East. I guess the tallest volcano in Eurasia had erupted today, and that's about it. Of course, there are ongoing earthquakes, but nothing that was off the charts, once in a blue moon kind of a event. However, this is a background influence, and it will continue to be basically coinciding with increased seismic activity in general, as well as things like mudslides or collapses of old buildings. All of those things will continue to be kind of having a stronger probability of occurring this year. And for this particular week, that will be the strongest, I believe, let's see, April 30th through May 3rd. Then, let's see, as far as predictions about leaders stepping away or passing, etc., of course, there are always some famous people who pass away every week. That said, I didn't see anything major as far as, again, somebody being removed from the position of power or stepping away or even, dying, etc. However, there were rumors about Kim Jong-un the entire weekend, even the previous week, that whether or not he is basically alive. So that is something I briefly looked at his chart, again, whether or not it's actual chart, at astrology.com, that I don't know, but at the glance, certainly it didn't look like anything super horrible was happening to him. But again, I literally spent maybe 2 minutes looking at it, but at a glance, I didn't see any horrific, transits to his chart. Let's see, as far as other predictions and news, for April 24th and the 26th, I did predict, or through 26th, I predicted that there may be increased probability of surprising or unexpected developments related to earnings, currencies, including cryptocurrencies, financial institutions, and or banks. I did see that on the 24th of April, there was an announcement that the cryptocurrency exchange Poloniex, if I'm pronouncing correctly, had experienced an unscheduled downtime, and basically then they resumed trading, except for the Grin, I guess, and Bitcoin pairs. Again, I'm not sure how big of a deal that was, but that did occur on that date. And of course, we have ongoing concerns about airlines, how they're faring, and I didn't specifically pick up any headlines about that, but I bet, if I went looking for it, there would have been, news almost every day about that. And speaking of airlines, as well as telecoms, IT companies, cloud service providers, etc., with the, Saturn moving into Aquarius this year and into next year, we will actually have increased sort of I wouldn't say tightening, but restructuring or increased focus on either losses or making things a little bit more regulated in all of those areas. And for airlines specifically, Saturn may well even bring either, of course, again, losses, restructuring, and to the point of nationalization, because again, Saturn rules things like government and basically tight regulations. Let's see. Going back to the review of the predictions, for China, I made predictions pretty much for the entire week, but specifically, especially for April 20th through 21st, and then 23rd and 24th, that there may be some kind of tensions with partners, and especially if there is any negotiations or if China experiences pressure from its partners, that they would basically take a strong position and either resist this pressure or even attempt to exert pressure themselves, that there may be some mutual accusations of either like spying and hacking or power plays. I didn't see anything about the spying and hacking. However, on April 22nd, Australia did basically propose that all member nations of the WHO should support an independent review into the coronavirus epidemic. And basically, I guess they were implying, or I don't know if the point of the investigation is basically to see what role, if any, China had to do with, I guess, the epidemic or pandemic, I should say. And at the same time, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman dismissed calls for this investigation, and Chinese ambassador to Australia said in the newspaper interview on Monday, I believe on the 27th, that the Chinese public could avoid products and universities, basically saying that, well, there may be some economic price to pay should Australia pursue their, I guess, course of action. And then in response to that, Australian foreign minister cautioned China against attempts at economic coercion. So basically, it doesn't really matter who said what, but the bottom line is that indeed we have this theme of partnerships and becoming a little bit more tense, and both parties accusing each other of basically not playing fair and exerting some coercion or engaging in some power plays. And that's exactly sort of the kind of transits that I saw coming up to China's natal chart. And lastly, this prediction is actually for this week. That I see the fairly major oil drop or concerns about oil prices or sales, and that's coming up on April 30th through May 1st, or even into May 3rd, but of course 2nd and 3rd of May are weekend. And we already had a large drop on April 20th, where US oil benchmark plummeted to below $3 per barrel in the new record low at that time. And the oil then since have recovered a little bit, and then again on the 27th of April it's going down. And like I said, for this week of April 27th, I think there will be pretty much entire week we will see increased focus on all these Neptunian sort of areas, which include oil and gas, as well as chemicals, pharmaceuticals, navy, anything to do with, like, say, fisheries, water pollution, as well as religion, movies, videos, beverages, etc., addictions even. And so I think that even though there was this large drop in oil prices already last week, there may be even a stronger sort of a change. I'm guessing it's going to be a down move in oil prices, or certainly increased news about oil, gas, etc. this entire week, especially on the Thursday, Friday, and then even into weekend potentially. And then and this time the focus will be more like on earnings, prices, sales, use of, I guess, oil for certain things, like, for, say, I guess, use of gas for, say, transportation, especially for cars, etc. However, this will be, I would say, almost like a preview of things to come, that even though this week there may be increased focus, but then in June, particularly June 8th through 15th, and especially 10th and 11th of June, there may be a really strong focus on these same areas, and that at that time there will be kind of a more sort of a explosive literally news where we may hear about some fighting, either fighting among countries that are major oil producers, or fighting literally some military activities in the areas where there's say oil wells or producers, or I guess oil is being was it refineries, or there may be some attack on a facility that again either produces some chemicals, for example, or fire, explosion on an oil rig, fighting that involves Navy, so somewhere that's on the body of water, near the body of water, with the use of chemicals, literally explosions that may be due to a gas leak, or maybe there's going to be so much gas it can be stored and it will literally need to be burned, and or say a volcano may erupt that is surrounded somewhere on the island that's surrounded by water, or underwater volcano. So we'll have this kind of a or again, last time something like that we had was a fire in the marina. So something that's mixing oil and fire, explosions and oil, fighting in oil, as well as chemicals and gas leaks. So that will be intense time. But again, this week, Thursday, Friday look intense, and there may be a big drop potentially with a swing to up either on Monday. Most likely it's possible that Thursday will be down and Friday up, but most likely Thursday, Friday will be a drop, followed by Monday market going up. As far as other days of the week, I think that pretty much the entire week will be down. As of the 27th, my prediction of down on Monday, which I already posted previously on Sunday at my blog at lasun.com, didn't actually come true. Monday was an up day, but again, I think overall the week will be a down week, especially towards the end of the week. Things might get a little bit more tense, or there may be more confusion or more sort of concerns about instability and oil prices, and I think that might bring things down at the end of the week especially. So let's see. Also on off all year as a background influence, and especially coming into like August of this year, there may be increased focus on governmental regulations, controls, taxes, tariffs, as well as losses, shortages, delays, and need for reorganizing some structures or fixing some structures. So maybe fixing infrastructure like building roads, bridges, or fixing something that's old, or fixing again, organizations, because at the tops things may not be functioning too well, and this particularly concerns large corporations and governmental kind of entities. And so this may have to do with this may basically manifest as either some natural disasters, say an earthquake, and therefore you need to fix a large structure, or it could be corporate restructuring and or shake-up, where again reshuffling at the top of the governments, and or bankruptcies, and so something will need to be reorganized. And particularly for US, month of August may bring increased focus on again governmental and corporate leadership, power shifts, as well as changes in like rates, debt, bankruptcies, and that will be especially significant again for US in the areas related to retail sales, communication, transportation, travel, social media, newspapers, car manufacturers, and other kind of car-related companies such as car rentals. There may also be, again in August, I guess that's the time where schools would be reopening, and at that time there will also be increased news and or significant changes related to young people. So that would be like schools, and also things like real estate, farming, and food production. So there may be some increased regulation surrounding those areas, and or delays. Again, delays again, just to maybe impose the regulations to make sure things are functioning properly. So obviously then things kind of proceed slower than usual. But there also may be shortages or concerns about lack of safety, or just again major changes in those areas and potentially greater regulation, greater sort of restrictions. So again, it could be restrictions on how kids go to school, shortages in terms of like food shortages, or stricter regulations on groceries or something like that. And also actually again, August looks important for the world, looks important in terms of transits to US chart, and also for China, August 9th through 7th particularly may be significant, where there may be increased focus on healthcare, pharmaceuticals, Navy, secretive activities, chemicals, oil, pollution, recycling, etc. So those topics may come up again for China. So I'm not sure if this will be like another wave of, say, coronavirus kind of news, or just dealing with basically some other healthcare related issues and or pollution, addressing pollution, recycling, etc. Then for US, this whole, like basically the entire 2020 as well as into almost the entire 2021, and particularly significant dates in 2020 will be February 14th through July 7th, and then November 16th through December 12th. These 2 years will be important in terms of engaging in international negotiations, agreements, forming diplomatic, relations, partnerships, and there may be some basically tensions, and there may be some news about like the end of cycle, something ending, so perhaps some partnership ending, some agreement ending, and there may be increased news about companies filing for bankruptcy and or experiencing problems with taxes, or concerns about loans, rates, or even hacking. And there may be some either news about, say, a whistleblower basically coming up and saying, speaking, to reveal rather these issues, or maybe some top, corporate officers may be accused of engaging in some sort of a shady activity, be it from like hiding things, taxes, for example, or literally engaging in some abusive activities, and or the business again cannot pay its debt, so it needs to be reorganized, and also the particular areas in terms of which kind of businesses might be more affected are businesses again that have to do with like lending, the ones that deal with again loans, as insurance companies, and any companies that either somehow deal with kind of shady secretive activities, and also and or literally somehow oversee locations underground, so any sort of underground storage, mining, coal company, trash, recycling, and as well as nuclear power. So for China, this week is also important in terms of focus on healthcare treatments, and as well as partnerships and agreements. Then for China and coronavirus news, I do believe there will be some more upcoming news later this year, and especially August through November. Either we will hear about new waves of this pandemic of coronavirus, and or there'll be some follow-up activities related to, again, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, maybe a healthcare reform, change in how, say, research is done that is in these secretive locations, and or how, say, hospitals are run. So any activities that are either secretive or happen in these faraway locations that are secretive, again, monasteries, for example, etc., research labs, etc., all of those may undergo a major change, and there will be a new, either, like I said, a reform or change of sort of status quo related to that. And particularly August through November, and specific times that are significant will be July 6th through the 24th of this year, and then October 26th through November 20th, with November 9th through 13th for China being particularly significant. Either there'll be some sort of a major announcement at that time, where maybe there's a lucky break, an improvement. Either we will hear like as official, no more deaths, for example, due to COVID-19, or some decision is made as far as like how to proceed forward, and or some other type of announcements, like a reform is announced, like I said, or radical measures taken. But these are the times, again, August through November, especially November 9th through 13th for China, is where we will still hear more news related to either COVID-19 and or related topics, again, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, etc. For oil prices, as I said, this week there will be increased news about that, especially April 30th through the May 3rd, and even on the May 4th, there might be some remaining kind of echoes or follow-up news. But I think it will be bringing market down Thursday, Friday, and probably will swing back to up on Monday. Either way, there probably will be a reversal from Thursday to Friday, not Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Friday to Monday. And as I said, June will be a time of even stronger sort of upsets related to oil. Market down the entire week. That's what I expect overall. On Tuesday, there will be increased news or concerns about cash flow, talks about financing governments or financial institutions, financial regulations, or delayed payments, or basically maybe concerns about money transfers that face obstacles or limitations. And that's again potentially due to increased governmental regulations, some sort of increased scrutiny, or perhaps there may be news about a reduction or delay in financing of governmental projects. So, contracts, for example, or some big governmental initiatives may be put on hold, for example. And for the US, that's global, but for US specifically, there may be increased discussions about enabling states to file for bankruptcy, which is, I guess, hasn't really been done before. However, this time on Tuesday, these topics may kind of be more in the news. And long term, indeed, I do see that December 2020 into February 2021 globally does indeed have these signature where there may be increased news about large corporations and or government either declaring bankruptcies or getting bailouts, but basically involvement of like large corporate structures and large governmental structures, and providing some sort of financing and or taking over by basically increasing, nationalizing some companies and or increasing oversight, because again, something really needs to be restructured and government needs to take over. Let's see, then on Thursday, also noteworthy is that I guess Thursday and Friday both, there will likely be large moves market moves regardless of the direction. And besides just news about like oil, chemicals, there will likely also be increased news about like pharmaceuticals, medicines, Navy, and especially of those kind of pharmaceuticals that are used for treating addictions. Let's see, and in addition to that, the news again, chemicals, all that stuff, April 30th through May 1st may see an uptick in surprising or sudden developments related to aerospace, cars, social media, IT, high-tech, electronic gadgets, electric cars, electric power companies, as well as finance and banks. So weather-wise, there may be an increased kind of news about strong winds, potentially leading to power outages or accidents, like an airplane accident, for example, due to, again, high winds, or some sort of a news about some sudden airborne attacks, or some sort of attack using drones or rockets, or some service disruptions in these areas, again, power outage at an airport, or power outage because, again, strong wind basically disrupts services, or, some problems with, say, online shopping platform, due to, again, service outages, some rapid changes in the value of cryptocurrencies, or some, again, outages where the platform is unavailable. So things like that. And let's see. And also on April 30th through May 4th, there may be increased news, like I said, about pharmaceuticals and the value of certain drugs or treatments. And again, most likely those will be related to something that's like liquid, delivered through liquids, and or is related to fighting addictions or treating addictions. And there may be some news about some medicine cost skyrocketing or falling dramatically. There may also be other related news, such as a prominent religious figure or an actor does something that gains, them a lot of attention, and that's related to either financing, like they lose a lot of money, or they do something to, maybe spend money on like this coronavirus help or something like that, or they overspend, but somehow they're in news for spending too much, spending too little, or losing a lot of money, or donating, for example, or mishandling the money. And let's see, so that's pretty much it for the week. As far as the glance ahead, basically what's coming up, I see my own notes here from the blog at lastunka.com that I publish on Sundays. On May 6th through 9th, we will have potentially news about a major drop in gold prices, or at least a greater than usual value and change in gold and or silver, regardless of the direction. And at the same time, especially on the 8th of May, there may be increased news about value fluctuations for US dollar and or some other important announcements related to US monetary policy, banks, earnings, rates, etc. And at the same time, for US, there may also be increased news about stock market, again, value in general, as well as partnership agreements and military, where military, maybe there will be some additional funding for the military, or some sort of agreements where, again, they're beneficial for the military, some sort of financial deals to support the military. Let's see, on May 19th through 22nd, there may be, yet again, increased news on oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, etc. And there may be a strong market drop on May 20th and 22nd. Then May 25th through 27th may see increased rise, I guess, in the global tensions and seismic activity, including various like attacks, as well as like too much precipitation and wind. Then May 31st through June 5th, there may be again increasing global tensions and important geopolitical events or seismic kind of events, including some sort of leadership changes, shakeups at the tops of the governments, corporations, earthquakes, etc. And yet again, gold value may be in focus. There may be some kind of suspense or something that's kind of ongoing and decided situation where it's not clear what the gold value should be because of some sort of a ongoing activity that is not resolved. I'm not sure exactly quite what it would be it maybe the earnings are not reported yet, there's a delay in reporting earnings, or some sort of a kind of issue that's on hold, and somehow it may affect gold prices as well. And let's see, and I already mentioned that June 8th or 15th may see increased news about either fighting, maybe like US and Iran tensions may become stronger again, and or there may be some sort of like an attack on a refinery, or literally just there will be too much gas stored somewhere and it either explodes or is even intentionally set on fire just to get rid of it, basically. And as I said already before, I think later this year, December 20th through February of 2021, it will be an important time where there will be increased news about large corporations and or governments, where we will hear them about them declaring bankruptcies or getting bailouts, and the areas that may potentially kind of need that or undergo the most change would be related to IT, telecoms, electric power companies, social networks, aerospace, etc. And there may be more generally a lot of restructuring in those areas. So basically how those companies functions, where they're located, who is at the top. And these changes may be accompanied by service outages. And these service outages may, like I said, be due to these, say, bankruptcy or need to restructure because government is coming in, taking over, or at least declaring kind of more stricter guidelines on how these companies should operate, and or there may be increased kind of news about turbulent weather, especially with winds, electric storms, ice storms, and or increased seismic activity, and perhaps that is what is going to be the cause for some of these service outages. So I guess this wraps it up. Hopefully it wasn't too long and annoying. And hope you enjoyed this, and we'll come back, check me out next week. Until then, have a fantastic week, and I'll catch you guys all later. Bye!